Is this chart at a reasonable height for you, or do you want it lowered? Fine. All right. Earlier tonight, let me first ask the TV, are you ready? All set?
Let me hear your voice level to make sure it's the same.
Okay, how's my voice level?
That's fine.
Terrific.
Now, I remember exactly the sentence I left off on. I remember how it started, and it was cut off in the middle, but you can fix it up some way. I don't want to go back, introduce the sentence, because I know exactly what I wanted to say.
Go ahead.
Okay. Any military commander who is honest with himself, or with those he's speaking to, will admit that he has made mistakes in the application of military power. He's killed people unnecessarily, his own troops or other troops, through mistakes, through errors of judgment. 100 or thousands or tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000. But he hasn't destroyed nations. And the conventional wisdom is don't make the same mistake twice. Learn from your mistakes. And we all do. Maybe we make the same mistake 3 times, but hopefully not 4 or 5. There'll be no learning period with nuclear weapons. You make one mistake and you're going to destroy nations. In my life, I've been part of wars. 3 years in the U.S. Army during World War II. 7 years as Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War. 13 years at the World Bank, across the world. At my age, 85, I'm at an age where I can look back and derive some conclusions about my actions. My rule has been try to learn, try to understand what happened. Develop the lessons and pass them on.
This is the Secretary of Defense of the United States, Robert McNamara. His department absorbs 10% of the national income of this country and over half of every tax dollar. His job has been called the toughest in Washington, and McNamara is the most controversial figure that has ever held the job. Walter Lippmann calls him not only the best Secretary of Defense, but the first one who ever asserted civilian control over the military. His critics call him a con man, an IBM machine with legs, an arrogant dictator.
Mr. Secretary, I've noticed in several cabinet offices that little silver calendar thing there. Can you explain that?
Yes, this was given by President Kennedy. On the calendar are engraved the dates October 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and finally 28 were the dates when we literally looked down the gun barrel into nuclear war.
Under a cloak of deceit, the Soviet Union introduced nuclear missiles into Cuba, targeting 90 million Americans. The CIA said the warheads had not been delivered yet. They thought 20 were coming on a ship named the Poltava. We mobilized 180,000 troops. The first day's air attack was planned at 1,080 sorties, a huge air attack.
The next 24 hours, what is it we need to do? First, we need to do two things. First, we need to develop a specific strike plan. The second thing we have to do is to consider the consequences. I don't know quite what kind of a world we live in after we've struck Cuba. How do we stop at that point? I don't know the answer to this. The chances of it becoming a much broader struggle are increased as you step up to talk about the danger of the United States.
Kennedy was trying to keep us out of war. I was trying to help him keep us out of war. And General Curtis LeMay, whom I served under, as a matter of fact, in World War II, was saying, let's go in, let's totally destroy Cuba. On that critical Saturday, October 27th, we had two Khrushchev messages in front of us. One had come in Friday night, and it had been dictated by a man who was either drunk or under tremendous stress. Basically, he said, If you'll guarantee you won't invade Cuba, we'll take the missiles out. Then, before we could respond, we had a second message that had been dictated by a bunch of hardliners. And it said, in effect, if you attack, we're prepared to confront you with masses of military power. So what to do? We had this, I'll call it the soft message and the hard message. At the elbow of President Kennedy was Tommy Thompson, former U.S. ambassador to Moscow. He and Jane, his wife, had literally lived with Khrushchev and his wife upon occasion. Tommy Thompson said, Mr. President, I urge you to respond to the soft message. The president said to Tommy, we can't do that. It'll get us nowhere. Tommy said, Mr. President, you're wrong. Now that takes a lot of guts.
We're not going to get these weapons out of Cuba, probably anyway. By negotiation. Hey, I don't agree with President. I think there's still a chance. Get back down. The important thing for Khrushchev seems to be to be able to say, I saved Cuba, I stopped an invasion.
In Thompson's mind was this thought. Khrushchev's gotten himself in a hell of a fix. He would then think to himself, my God, if I can get out of this with a deal that I can say to the Russian people, Kennedy was going to destroy Castro, and I prevented it. Thompson, knowing Khrushchev as he did, thought Khrushchev will accept that. And Thompson was right. That's what I call empathy. We must try to put ourselves inside their skin and look at us through their eyes, just to understand the thoughts that lie behind their decisions and their actions. Khrushchev's advisors were saying, there can be no deal unless you somewhat reduce the pressure on us when you ask us to reduce the pressure on you.
Also, we had attempted to invade Cuba.
Well, with the Bay of Pigs, that undoubtedly influenced their thinking. I think that's correct. But more importantly, from a Cuban and a Russian point of view, they knew what, in a sense, I really didn't know. We had attempted to assassinate Castro under Eisenhower and under Kennedy and later under Johnson. And in addition to that, major voices in the U.S. were calling for invasion. In the first message, Khrushchev said this: we and you ought not pull on the ends of a rope which you have tied the knots of war. Because the more the two of us pull, the tighter the knot will be tied. And then it will be necessary to cut that knot. And what that would mean is not for me to explain to you. I have participated in 2 wars and know that war ends when it has rolled through cities and villages, everywhere sowing death and destruction. For such is the logic of war. If people do not display wisdom, they will clash like blind moles, and then mutual annihilation will commence. I want to say, and this is very important, at the end, we lucked out. It was luck that prevented nuclear war. We came that close to nuclear war at the end. Rational individuals. Kennedy was rational. Khrushchev was rational.